If you are a fearful avoidant attachment style, also known as a disorganized attachment style, you are not too much, too needy. You are struggling with old maps that are telling your body essentially that closeness equals danger and distance equals danger. And this is primarily what causes you to feel like you are caught in these push-pull cycles that are so heavy and difficult to escape from. But in today's video, I'm going to help you deeply understand your own attachment triggers and wounds, how they came about, and what you can start doing to tackling some of these things once and for all. Now, if you are new here, hello and welcome. I'm so excited that you stopped by. My name is Gibson, and I'm the founder of Gibson Integrated Attachment Theory, which is the only proven method to leverage neuroplasticity to actually rewire your attachment style. And after 14 years of being in private practice and working with thousands of people and then tens of thousands of people through, private practice and then group coaching online programs at the Personal Development School, I am here to share with you the most powerful insights for deep inner healing from your childhood and past relationships so that you can truly live your best life. So here's what I want you to understand first. Your attachment wounds, or core wounds, two terms that I'll use interchangeably, these are things that come from your own subconscious programming. And before we get into the top 10 wounds, which I'll go through in a lot of detail, I want you to understand how it actually works, okay? Because this will open your eyes. So your subconscious mind, it stores everything. It is basically a giant warehouse of information, and it stores everything ever. Now, research tells us that memory can actually be consolidated a little bit over time, and we can actually misremember things ever so slightly. And as you can imagine, not all of these subconsciously stored information is always making its way up to our conscious mind where we become aware of it, but it is nevertheless dictating our patterns. In fact, 3 to 5% of all of your daily beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions or choices, these are dictated by your conscious mind, which is your logical thinking self, your analytical self. The rest, 95 to 97% of the rest, are dictated by your subconscious and unconscious collectively. And so really you can think of it as being your subconscious mind runs the show. And until you learn how your subconscious mind works and how neuroplasticity works, so we can change and rewire things, you probably feel really stuck. I want to give you an analogy for what's happening at an attachment or core wound level. I want you to imagine that tomorrow you decide to go into the woods and you see a bear and you run from the bear. And you're safe. Thank goodness you're safe. But let's say the very next day you have to go back into the woods. What do? What happens? Well, every time you hear the trees move or the bushes rustle in the wind, your mind jumps to conclusions, right? It goes, oh my gosh, it's the bear. The bear is coming. And you brace yourself and you prepare, and you probably feel your entire body flood with cortisol and norepinephrine, adrenaline, all of these neurochemicals that are ramping you up to deal with it. And then maybe you're like, oh, it was just the trees blowing in the wind. It's not a bear. There's no bear there. And then it can happen again 5 minutes later and 10 minutes later, and you keep bracing yourself, right? Well, that's because your subconscious mind is wired to hang on to threats, store them really strongly, and then reproject out the likelihood of these things recurring again so that it can keep you safe. But what happens when you're not being chased by a bear? When it's not a predator-prey situation, and instead it's that you felt abandoned as a child or that you felt betrayed a lot growing up? Well, what do you think takes place? The moment that you get into a close relationship with somebody else, your version of the bear is the betrayal, the abandonment. You're thinking, okay, these things are going to happen again. These things are going to happen to me. And your body braces for impact because you've been hurt by those things in the past. And now, because you're not running from a bear to save your life, you projecting these things on a daily basis onto the present and future actually might be doing more harm than good. Because in a lot of cases, if you're pushing somebody away or holding on too tightly because you're scared of them leaving, but that incidentally pushes them away, some of these things can deeply disrupt our relationships. So I want you to think of your attachment or core wounds as being your version of the bear in the woods. And this is going to be because you had roots of these things, these experiences in the past that you have stored, and now you see and interact with the world through the lens of your subconscious mind. Okay, you can actually think of your programming, conditioning, your subconscious mind as being like the filter that you see and interact with the world through. So here are some of these major wounds, okay? And we're going to talk about them in some detail here. Number one, and this is according to Integrated Attachment Theory, this is the body of work we published back in 2019. The first biggest core wound fearful avoidance is I am or I will be betrayed. And this you can think of in other words as being like, I can't trust wound. And this I can't trust wound is literally one of those situations where it's sometimes about people. The vast majority of the time, it's about people. It's like, oh, I can't trust that they won't betray me or lie or cheat or steal or, these types of things, the obvious. But sometimes it's also, I can't trust the universe, the future, like something bad is going to happen. It's almost like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop all the time. And you'll see that you respond to this by being in this state of hypervigilance, always trying to predict the future, being 3 steps ahead, trying to like deal with what could go wrong. Oh, if this person did this now, that could mean that this will happen 3 years from now, 5 years from now. Or, oh, if this is happening in the world now, geez, what's the world going to look like in another 5 years? And so you'll see yourself move through these cycles of really struggling to trust, and you'll generally cope with this wound by trying to be in control. Now, sometimes it's control of other people's lives, but that's a lot less rare because fearful avoidance also very much value freedom and try to respect other people's freedom. But a lot of times it'll be, I try to control everything about my own life or about my own world because I can't trust. And so if I can optimize and control everything in my own life and my own world, well, then maybe I'll be okay in the future when all the things happen or everything falls apart. And so that's a big manifestation of this. Okay. So the I am betrayed core wound tends to be a big one. And by the way, I'll just tell you 2 quick things. If you want to go deeper into this, I have a whole course you can check out for free for a period of time called Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course. It goes into the neuroscience of how to rewire these things. And you actually get to keep our somatic healing course for life as a gift. We're just doing that for a limited time this month. So that's below. And also, I'm going to be live streaming webinars for season 2 of our podcast all throughout this month. And we're starting with some of these topics like attachment triggers, rewiring. So make sure you subscribe because we'll go really in depth, and I can go more than in a short video here. A full like hour-long podcast, and those courses are 2 hours. They have worksheets, exercises, processes, all of that stuff. Okay. So don't worry if you're seeing this. No, it's a solvable problem, but the awareness is really helpful. Number 2, another really big one is I will be abandoned. Okay. So a lot of fearful avoidance, they do have a very strong anxious side to them. They fear abandonment and they fear the loss of people they love or somebody pulling away or leaving them, all of these types of things. Now, interestingly, fearful avoidance often respond to the fear of abandonment by trying to cling and get closer. But a lot of times fearful avoidance respond to the fear of abandonment by pushing somebody away. They might go, okay, well, you're going to leave me anyway, so who cares? Push you away. And in doing that, they create a sense of safety or control, right? I can control that I let you hurt me less by pushing you away first. Going back to that I am betrayed core wound, right? It's like that I can't trust, I need control. So those are 2 of the biggest ones there. Another huge one, and a lot of fearful avoidants, when they first hear this, they say, no, I don't feel like this, but let me explain. A lot of fearful avoidants have an I am unsafe core wound. Now, if you are a fearful avoidant, you're probably like, I don't feel unsafe. I can take care of myself. I can handle myself in a situation. I'm fearless. But when you'll have an I am unsafe core wound. Because if you pay attention, you are constantly operating from fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. In order to be constantly operating from fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses, so fighting, you might find yourself over-defend yourself or get really fired up about something and then later be like, oh, I wish I was a little, more calm in that situation. Flight, you may leave things prematurely or suddenly, quit jobs out of the blue, leave relationships, cut off friendships, very in a flighty manner. Freeze is like you literally avoid, deflect, shut down, go into this sort of dorsal vagal shutdown state where your nervous system is just like numbed out. You might get home from work and you're like on the couch and just don't really move for hours. Or fawn, chronic people pleasing. Okay, all of these things, in order to actually have these things as a part of your daily behaviors, you have to be operating from sympathetic nervous system mode, which is literally the mode of being dysregulated because you're feeling unsafe. Okay, so checking in there, you might have been really accustomed to feeling this way, so you don't consciously notice it. And you might still think like, hey, I know I can defend myself in a conflict. You might believe that, but it doesn't mean that your body feels safe and your nervous system feels safe. Okay, so check in to see if that one resonates with you. And by the way, as I'm going through these, I'd love to hear from 1 to 10 how much each of these wounds resonate with you. Let me know in the comments. Number 4, I am trapped. Okay, another really big core wound. Fearful avoidants have a fear of being trapped. They don't like being trapped in commitments. They don't like being trapped, like having to do things. And honestly, let's just tell it how it is. If you're a fearful avoidant and you feel trapped by something, you probably act like a caged animal. Okay. I feel like I'm allowed to say that because I was a fearful avoidant. This is part of why I'm so into this work and published this whole body of work on the core wounds and all these different attachment style patterns and behaviors, is because I learned to rewire my own attachment style. I had a lot of these things and had a lot of these wounds coming out of my own childhood experiences. And I promise you, it's not even that hard to do. So don't worry if you're hearing a lot of these things and you're like, oh my gosh, this sounds like so many triggers. Yes. And they're extremely hard to live with. I'll be honest, like this is a heavy burden to carry, but they are solvable problems. Okay. You're not born with these core wounds. They get wired into you, conditioned into you through repetition and emotion, which fires and wires your neural networks and neural pathways. And you can rewire them using similar steps. And we have lots of methods and modalities to do that. Number 5, a really big one here, is I am unworthy. Now, you might again have this kind of dynamic because remember, your conscious mind is 3 to 5% of things. So when you analyze things, you might be like, oh, maybe, but wait, fearful avoidants generally end up in relationships where they are earning their worth. Okay. So what I mean by this is you'll probably notice in some of your own patterns that you overgive and underreceive. It's like you want to know that if I do more for the person than they do for me, then I'm worthy of them wanting to stay in the relationship. Then I'm worthy of feeling like they'll want to stick around. And deep down, there's this sense of overcompensation. And you might see that you do this a lot in friendships. You might even see like you go on dates and you're like, it has to be the best date ever every time. And instead of dating being this organic process of getting to know somebody, and like maybe if you're tired one day, you stay in or you don't talk as much, and that's okay. And you're yourself. Instead, you might feel like a lot of things in your life are kind of performative. Like you always have to show up and have the best time and the best phone call, and there's this pressure, and this background pressure is also a lot to carry. And I want you to notice like how this shows up in your life and how this really impacts you. Okay. Because as you start to see some of these things, you'll be able to go, oh yeah, like I'm carrying a lot of this pressure. In doing that, it also creates the breeding grounds for resentment, because if you're expecting yourself to show up at a 10 out of 10 all the time and then somebody else isn't, you're going to often feel kind of offended by that, right? It makes sense. But what you're not realizing is that you're putting all this excess pressure on yourself. And actually, the answer is to take some of the pressure off, be more yourself, let your hair down a little bit sometimes, not feel like you always have to be on. Okay, we'll leave it at that. There's so much more to say. Number 6, a fear of being helpless. Okay, again, let me just explain this to you. Sometimes your conscious mind will be like, oh, I don't think I feel like that. But then when I explain it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, my behaviors tell me that this is such a thing. Imagine that you had to completely rely on somebody else. Let's pretend in some theoretical world, you can't take care of yourself. And God forbid that ever happens, because I know that's one of the biggest fears. But I want you to notice what you feel in your body when you think of that. Like if you had to, for the rest of your life, lean on somebody financially, to help you out physically, to help you out, in all different sort of aspects of your life, what comes up for you? And probably you feel like a sense of terror a little bit. And that's this fear of being helpless. Okay. Like, oh my gosh, I'm helpless. I can't do anything. And it's a really, really profound wound for a lot of fearful avoidance. And honestly, a lot of it comes from if you were in an environment that felt super uncomfortable for you growing up and you didn't know how to communicate your needs or set boundaries or know how to even navigate or manage that environment, and yet you're relying on people who felt very confusing for you, then you probably had this deeply ingrained sense of helplessness at a young age where it's like, I don't feel comfortable and safe and connected in this environment, but I have no idea what to do about it. And that no idea of what to do about it, and just feeling this sense of being stuck in that and not helped, not supported in the way that you need, that will lead to a very big helpless core wound. Okay. Number 7 is your I am bad core wound. Again, your conscious mind might say, no, here's how the I am bad core wound shows up. You feel like you have to constantly over-explain yourself. You feel shame around your mistakes and put so much, you maybe like really punish yourself for making mistakes. And you're like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm such a bad person. And if you make a mistake and you have to change something, maybe you have to change an appointment, maybe you have to change plans for a friend, you might feel this deep, deep inner sense of guilt and shame. And that usually comes from an I am bad core wound. It's this idea that like, I am a bad person for making mistakes, instead of saying like, oh, that wasn't a good mistake. That was an unhealthy choice. Or, oh, that was a human thing to do. There's generally this absence of forgiveness towards yourself there. And again, I feel like it's kind of hard and confronting to hear some of these things at first, but this usually comes from being harshly punished or harshly criticized as a child. So if you really beat yourself up as an adult. Sometimes it's because your internal dialogue was your internalized dialogue, either how you saw people speaking to one another around you or how you were directly spoken to. A lot of these patterns, one of the biggest ways we get our patterns is what we see, what we hear repeatedly, and what our firsthand experiences are. That's basically the three ways we obtain conditioning at the subconscious level. And so if you constantly hear a lot of negative talk, you're going to have a lot of negative self-talk and be quite punishing and harsh and critical towards yourself. And again, this will all go hand in hand with this wound. Now, I'm going to leave you with the last couple at a high level. Again, as I'm saying these, I have so much empathy and care for you in this moment. If you're going through and seeing these things in your own patterning for the first time, I know it's not easy, but it's such a powerful step to healing, to understand these things, notice these programs that are running for you at a subconscious level, because like I said, there are solvable problems. You can rewire them. It's not even that hard to do. It's quite simple and easy, but we often just never learn the tools growing up. So our last couple here, core wound number 8 is the core wound of being unseen. Okay. You can think of this as being unseen or unheard. So a lot of times growing up, if you felt, or even in past relationships, like your needs weren't really made space for because there was too much chaos going on around you, or because you were often caretaking for other people, you'll feel like, okay, I'm doing everything for everybody else. Maybe it's emotionally, maybe you're taking care of a huge, a bunch of younger siblings, maybe you're in a huge family. And it's like, well, what about me? Will sort of be that feeling like, hey, what about me? Does anybody see me? Does anybody notice what I'm going through, what I'm experiencing, what some of my needs are? And if there's this sense through a lot of your past relationships or a lot of your childhood where that's not the case, then that will often lead to a very big I am unseen or unheard wound, almost like you're drowned out in the noise in the background. And then 2 other big ones that can show up quite strongly are I am unloved and I'm disrespected. Okay. So I'll leave it at that. I feel like it's, I'm mindful that it can be a little bit confronting. If you want to dig deep into healing from these things, learning more about these things, learning to rewire these things, make sure you tune into our podcast on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern or Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. They're full live streamed episodes where we have way more time to go into these things in detail. Or if you actually want to get right into the rewiring, the emotional mastery and belief rewiring course, it's all about rewiring your attachment wounds. And you can check it out fully for free for 7 days and as a free gift with it. Get that somatic healing course, because those 2 things are really powerful pillars of healing your attachment style. They're 2 of our 6 most important pillars, the 6 pillars that literally are the necessary ingredients to truly deeply healing. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I was a fearful avoidant. I was where you were one time. I promise you things will change if you just plug into doing a little bit of work over time. And thank you for stopping by.